this room, featuring those fine folks up there on the dais, the Brigantine City Council meeting, they're going to put up an amendment to an ordinance, the short-term rental ordinance. They're going to try to get a grip on the chaos happening in Brigantine, right? Mayor Vince Sera of Brigantine, DJ Mike Reardon, Paul Lettieri, maybe Mr. DeLucre will be there. He's busy with the Atlantic City Housing Authority, so we get it. He has his hands full with all kinds of. Brigantine City Council, Wednesday night, October 4. They're going to read it, get some public comment, talk about it, and put it up for a vote. And then it comes back 2 weeks later. I'll tell you more about how this is going to work. I downloaded the agenda, which includes the amendment to the short-term rental ordinance, the current one. The short-term rental ordinance amendment effects. If this gets passed, it keeps on moving down the line. If this stuff goes into effect, this is what I think is going to happen. Wait. Let me say that again. This is what's going to happen in Brigantine if the Mayor Vince Sera plan gets put into effect, all right? He wants a 2-night minimum, but it will not reduce party houses. It will not stop animal houses. It ain't going to stop those crazy parties. Not going to do it. That is why most seashore towns have a 7-night rental minimum. Margate has a few issues here and there, but they have a 7-night rental minimum in Margate. They don't get these problems like Brigantine does. Ventnor still has some issues, but they finally, a few months back, went from no rules to a 3-night minimum. That was something. They kind of thought about a 5-night, and they backed away under a lot of pressure from absentee landlords. Yeah, that's right. Absentee landlords. So the 2-night minimum is not going to reduce the party houses, all right? I like the idea. You got to be 25 to rent, but how are you going to enforce that? This is interesting. Long-term rentals will decrease further. There'll be less places for you to rent annually for you and your small family, a 2-bedroom. Now that it's proposed there's going to be no restrictions on 1 and 2 bedroom homes or properties. They can do whatever for the most part, they're unrestricted from what they can do in terms of rental on Airbnb and other platforms. They have no restrictions for 1 and 2 bedrooms. That means you could be in the middle of 2, let's say there's 3 side-by-sides, houses, townhomes or something like that, and you're in the middle townhome, and they, you don't have an HOA or a homeowners association or a condo or whatever you're all individual homes, but you're side-by-side, right? What if both sides of you, on the left and the right, they decide they're going to kick out their tenant, their long-term tenant, and they're going to convert it to a short-term rental because there's no restrictions. They can do it every night. You can have a different person every night at a lower cost. Would you like to live in between those 2 properties? No restrictions. There you go. 1 and 2 bedroom rentals. It sounds good. No big parties. But you could have a different person next to you all the time because they are going to maximize the amount of times they can rent these smaller places out. I guarantee you that. I think some of these new rules, if they get passed in Brigantine City Council, short-term rental arbitrage will be reduced or eliminated because they do talk about, and I'll get deeper. I'll show you examples of that in the amendment, in proposed amendment. But it looks like third-party stuff, absentee landlords, subleasing. No, can't do it. But how are you going to enforce that? And of course, that's something called short-term rental arbitrage. That means somebody who doesn't even own the place gets in the middle of the deal and they say, listen, you lease it, you rent it to me for the full year. I'll just put it on Airbnb and make you a lot of money. And I'll cover your monthly nut. That's people getting in the middle. There's a fair amount of that. Brigantine is moving in the direction of it's going to be more and more motels. It's happening. It's happening slowly. And that's what's most scary because it just creeps up on you. And before you know it, the guy next to you on this side over there, I'm making a lot of money. Somebody came up and said, I'm going to knock your house down, put a 9-bedroom up. Why wouldn't you go for that? enforcement of all these new regulations. I'm telling you, it's like the Bible. It's so thick. It's like the funky Wagnalls. Who's going to read all that? Council and our good friend Tiger, he hasn't even read the current the ordinance. I guarantee of that. Oh, by the way, if you do there is complaints. What happens if you keep on becoming a nuisance property and you get a bunch of complaints? Well, it has to be a substantiated complaint. What the hell does that mean? Well, a substantiated complaint, you got to go through all these different levels, but ultimately you have to have a court conviction. Like that's going to happen. So before it gets in front of a judge, if it ever does, who is going to determine whether you're a nuisance property? That'll be our good friend. He's the man from Absecon with no skin in the game. That's city manager Tiger Platt. He will determine whether you're a nuisance property. And that guy over there that has 28 people in there, even though the law says 18, no more than 18 people, Tiger's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. Tiger's going to be the guy that determines, that's not, you miscounted. No, he's going to pick the winners and the losers. The guy from Absecon is going to determine whether a business, a hotel can be right next to you. Want to take a look at the agenda for October 4, 2023, starting at 5 o'clock. City of Brigantine Council meeting, baby. I wonder if I want no glitches. I don't want anybody tripping over the cord. Oops. No city council feed, no YouTube, no internet feed. Oh, and by the way, when you get a chance, Mr. Tiger or Mr. Mayor or John Dorian, can you turn the cameras on for the planning board meetings? It's in the same room. You have all the equipment. Turn the cameras on, my friend, for the Brigantine Planning Board. Because we want to see all the handsome people up there, like Mr. Landgraf and Sera, Mr. Sera. We think it's a lot of fun. So turn the cameras on for the planning board meetings, all right? All right, so let's take a look at the agenda for October 4, 2023, 5 o'clock. All right, let's read it. The ordinance, it's the first reading. So there is a bit of a process. Whereas the City Council of Brigantine seeks to permit transient accommodation or short-term rental use of certain legally permitted dwelling units throughout the city of Brigantine in order to facilitate the booking of reservations for such uses through third-party booking platforms and promote tourism, economic vitality in the city. And whereas short-term rental dwellings units can provide flexible housing stock, travelers get a safe accommodation while contributing to the local economy, promoting travel and tourism, and supporting the tourism industry and the business community. Whereas the short-term rental of dwellings and dwelling units can provide homeowners with an opportunity to maintain ownership of property in difficult economic circumstances. And whereas the needs of long-term residents should be balanced with the allowance of short-term rentals, and whereas the council recognizes that unregulated short-term rentals can create disproportionate impacts related to their size, excessive occupancy, and lack of proper facilities. And whereas the presence of short-term rentals of residential dwelling units in established residential neighborhoods can create negative compatibility impacts and nuisance violations, which include but are not limited to excessive noise, overcrowded on-street parking, accumulation of trash, diminished public safety. Whereas long-term rental housing vacancy rates in the city are at low levels, making it increasingly difficult for people to obtain permanent housing in Brigantine. Whereas the removal of residential units from the long-term housing market for short-term rental use contributes to low vacancy rates. And whereas the conversion of long-term housing units to short-term rentals will result in the loss of long-term housing for city residents. And whereas it's in the public interest that short-term rental use be regulated to help preserve housing for long-term tenants and to minimize any potential deleterious, did I pronounce that right? Effects of short-term rental properties, negative effects of short-term rental properties is what it means, on other properties in the surrounding and on other properties in the surrounding neighborhoods in which they are located. Jeez. Whereas Brigantine City Council finds that there's a substantial interest in furthering public health, safety, and welfare by controlling density, by protecting the residential character of the areas designated for residential use, by establishing and enforcing minimum life safety standards and preserving the long-term rental housing market located within the city. Our good friend Mayor Vince Sera of Brigantine, in reference to short-term rentals, the chaos, all this word salad is not going to accomplish what he's setting out in the whereas portion of the ordinance amendment, the proposed amendment. He's saying it out loud. We're losing people. People can't afford to live here. He should have kind of put some fine print in there, which means eventually the Brigantine school system will need to be merged with Atlantic City. You only have 400 people in the Brigantine school system. It's about $39,000, $39,000 per student. Did you remind people of that, my friend, Mayor Vince Sera? They're making it very clear there's going to be less locals. You're going to get pushed out because why wouldn't you convert your house or your 1 or 2 bedroom into a short-term rental? The gold rush is on, baby. It is. You're going to see the headlines for this, where it's going to make Brigantine seem so progressive. Look what we're doing. Who's going to enforce this? It's not going. It's going to be selectively enforced. You got that? It's going to be selectively enforced by our good friend Tiger Platt. You can totally trust the guy from Absecon. He's the wrong guy to be anywhere near this. Jeez, I would give him another raise. Just, jeez. And we like short-term rentals. We like the idea of Airbnb. But there's a reason why most other towns around the country, around the world, have cracked down and not entirely eliminated short-term rentals or Airbnbs, but they go, this is destroying our economy. They are not telling you the truth about the impact of short-term rentals on Brigantine. You can have short-term rentals, but the rules and the layout that the mayor, who has zero experience in this space, what he's pushing with his clandestine private meetings with anonymous people that changed the vote 2 weeks ago, and you let that slide? The man that lays pipe but wears really nice outfits to meetings, John Doring, you let him trip over the cord for the council meeting YouTube streaming feed. Nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. No wonder Brigantine's still dealing with that audit from the New Jersey State Comptroller. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Regulations pertaining to short-term rentals in Brigantine. A, the length of rental period. Each owner is granted a license pursuant to this section shall be permitted to lease or rent the rental unit for a specified number of nights in accordance with the following. What that means is if you have a 1 or a 2 bedroom unit, rental unit, maybe owner occupied duplexes, no minimum rental period is required. You can do it every single night. You can do it 7 times, 7 different rentals per week. Why wouldn't you do that? Get a third party to really work it. Oh, no one's buying your Tuesday and Wednesday? Cut the price in half. That's called short-term rental arbitrage, my friend. Now, if you have 3 bedrooms or greater, it looks like you got to have at least 2 consecutive nights. 2 consecutive nights. That will not put a dent in the party houses, which everybody admits that's the reason why they're in the short-term rental business. People love renting on a Saturday night, bachelorette parties, etc. Hopefully, if they were smart putting these parties together, the first thing they should do is call DJ Mike Reardon. Hey, he's happy. He's a good. He's one of the best. Well, it's like neck and neck with DJ Jack Fahey. They're both awesome. They're both awesome. They really are. I tease because I love. All right. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so as a part of the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, which may or may not, who knows what will happen. Oh, sorry, it's a glitch. Another delay. Okay. If the owner is an LLC, a limited liability corporation, if the owner is an LLC, a corporation, or a partnership, the following information must be included. The individual names of all the members of the LLC, the principals of the corporation or partners in partnership, and the personal contact information, including address and telephone numbers for each of them. Could you imagine whose names are connected to these LLCs? It's going to be the best. But, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. But there's an awful lot of hidden owners. Wouldn't you want to hide behind an LLC? If you were buying up all kinds of property and building 9-bedroom, what do we say? Sleeps 30, pools. You don't need any setback. You don't need setback. Don't worry about it. Right next to St. Thomas. Yeah. It's keeps getting better. All right. Proposed by the brainiacs over there at the short-term rental committee in Brigantine. That's Mayor Sera. And who else? I forget. John Haney. It's a good pick, right? What? And Paul Lettieri? Yeah, Lettieri. His experience with short-term rentals, he had somebody urinate on his car and on his lawn. That qualified him to be on the committee. Oddly, the one realtor on the Brigantine City Council was not selected for the short-term rental committee. I mean, he's involved with, real estate and rental. He would be, DJ Mike Reardon would be the perfect person to be on that committee, but he was not picked. I don't know why. I got your back, Mike. DJ Mike Reardon. Need to contact him? Just go to the front page of the Brigantine Times, right there in the bottom. Mike Reardon doing ads on city council videos. That's why I love him. He's a lovable kind of a goof. He really is. And he's also running the laptop now. He's running the cameras, making sure if there's anything embarrassing, he takes the camera and moves it to a different direction. DJ Mike Reardon, everybody. All right. Proof of owner's current ownership and the proof of that you have general liability insurance in the minimum amount of $500,000. We've heard that should be $1 million, the minimum liability insurance. Instead of 500, it should be a mandatory 1 million at least. And then you have to also get coverage specific to short-term rental activity. Special insurance. Some of these numbers are not going to pencil out for some of these investors who got in late. That is why there's so much pressure on our good friend Mayor Vince Sera, history teacher, former lifeguard, and now an expert at all things short-term rental, obviously. Keeping the rest of council quiet as he speaks his nuggets of truth. And Tiger Platt, city manager's hanging back, looking handsome, saying nothing, the way he likes it. All right. And maybe Jack Murray. Jack Murray, he's the fire inspector. He's the guy that has to check all these rentals. I hear that he's not happy that Tiger is not getting him help. That's crazy. Help this guy, Jack Murray. He has a small team. You got to start hiring people. So we support Mr. Murray, the fire inspector, the fire official. It's an important job, man. Come on, Tiger, get your shit together, man. All right. The owner of the short-term rental must maintain 3 years of records concerning rental occupancy, including identity of all transient occupants who have occupied the property, names, ages, addresses, dates of occupancy, which shall be made available upon request of the city. Oh, my God. Yeah, they're making you do all that work. Make sure you don't miss anybody. So these are pretty stringent, but it's all about enforcement. They're not. What do you think? It's called selective enforcement. It's quite popular in Brigantine and most short towns too. I like this. The short-term rental property owner shall publish the short-term rental license number issued by the city in print, digital, internet, the multiple listing service, the MLS, etc. That's a good idea. No rental property rented to any person under 25 years of age. That doesn't mean there's going to be some shenanigans. Naked people dancing on rooftops. That's what happens when you hire a DJ like DJ Mike Reardon. You bring him in, the place goes nuts. He has that kind of control on the 1 and the 2, the wheels of steel. So as a part of the ordinance, maybe I can add something if you could. Parties are prohibited. Large parties are prohibited from hiring DJ Mike Reardon because he's too badass. He'll make people go nuts, having a good time, hooting and hollering all night long. You got to ban Mike Reardon. I apologize. Should be in the ordinance because he's that good. DJ Mike Reardon, everybody. I love me. Reardon, Lettieri. I like those guys. I know they want to really speak the truth, but they can't. Lettieri, he definitely wants to talk the truth. It's been bubbling up underneath the surface. It's like olive oil when you're almost burning it. You put the garlic in at that point where it's going to either be perfect or it's going to taste like crap. When I see Paul Lettieri, I always feel he's tense like that. All right. That wasn't. I love garlic, burnt garlic in olive oil. All right. Oh, this is good. I like this one a lot. This will really work. In cases where a short-term rental application is denied, the owner shall have 10 calendar days to appeal in writing to the city manager. That would be a guy from Absecon with no skin in the game by the name of Tiger Platt, the city manager. Yeah, there you go. If you do not behave yourself, Tiger, the city manager, might let your neighbor running parties every night. He might say, you know what, they're really not breaking the law. I don't see anything wrong there. It's a long process. As Mayor Vince said, he doesn't get things done fast. He gets them done right. Stupid. I don't get them done fast. I get them done right. What a stupid thing to say. This is stupid. This proposed amendment. Not that it has good stuff in it. There's no, how are they going to control it? How are they going to manage it? How are they going to enforce it? It all comes down to, it's a 2-night minimum. It's a 2-night minimum. That means you chickened out. It's the text that discusses short-term rental arbitrage, somebody getting in the middle of the deal. A person offering a dwelling unit for short-term rental use must be the owner of the dwelling unit. A tenant of the property, they cannot apply for a short-term rental license, nor shall the property or any portion thereof be subleased by the tenant on a short-term basis or operated as a short-term rental property by the tenant. The short-term rental property regulation shall supersede any conflicting provision in a private lease agreement permitting subleasing of the property or any portion of the property. Violation may result in enforcement action against the tenant, the owner, the rental agent, the responsible party, blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty big because I think there's a lot of these management companies, man, saying, hey, listen, rent it to me for X compensation. And I'll make you enough money to pay all your bills and put money in our pocket. We'll take advantage of these very lax, fairly non-existent restrictions on short-term rentals, where you're able to put some people say a little miniature motel right there in the middle of a residential neighborhood. License revocation and suspension. The city manager may, under his own discretion, determine the property as a nuisance property as defined under 246-1 of this chapter. Yeah. He's the man. I know it. That's why they gave him the extra $50,000, because they wanted him to be super badass. City manager Tiger Platt may, under his own discretion, and he's impeccable in being fair and kind. Under his own discretion, Tiger Platt can determine the property as a nuisance property. Yeah. If for some reason he don't like you You're a nuisance property. Do you really want to get in front of a judge for this? It's all that time and money? Just keep that in mind, my friends. If you're thinking about retiring in Brigantine, or you're, but if you want to get on the party train over there with all the builders and all the people that are connected to all this, it's Brigantine is ripe for the picking. It is a superior place for venture capitalists who know that they're going to go for the gusto and convert Brigantine to something totally different. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, but they're lying to you about community. Community will be destroyed. It has to be destroyed because it's a snowball rolling down a hill. And of course, Tiger Platt is going to decide if that party house on both sides of you is really a nuisance, or you're just a Karen, or you're just somebody who needs to get a life, or you're just a shoebie, I think, or you're just one of those second homeowners, aren't you? That's the way they roll in Brig, baby. It's true. Very true. So what is a substantiated? So you can get lots of complaints calling in, who knows, violations. There is no way Brigantine has any track record of even who is a STR or who has been getting a lot of calls. From what we understand, it's not very tidy, let's say. But after so many quote unquote substantiated complaints, because it has to be substantiated. So what does that mean? Well, it's a complaint which may form the basis for proceedings in accordance with the authority conferred by NJSA, blah, blah, blah. A substantiated complaint shall be one in where there was prosecution and conviction in any court of competent jurisdiction. So to even get that complaint against that really bad short-term rental guy, that absentee landlord that just says, screw you, I'm doing what I'm going to do, right next to you, you can't do nothing about it. It never gets to that level of being a substantiated complaint, even though you know this guy's a big-time violator, big time. Whether it's parking or too many people on a property.